So if you joined me for the last tutorial, we took advantage of the little LED screen on the front and we made a flashing heart that displayed on there forever, right? As soon as it powered up, it just kept showing that flashing heart over and over and over. But what we can do is start to teach kids about the other aspects, the inputs and the outputs and the connectivity with other things with this microbit. And as they learn those skills, they can really start to get creative. And if you're going to take any sort of an environmental focus with the use of your sort of inventions and programs in any way, a really nice place to start is by having the microbit display the temperature. There is a temperature sensor on here. Here's where it is. If you flip the microbit over on the back, it's right in there. There's a little processor. This is the version 2. I'm just going to open up a screen here from the Microbit website that on your left here, you'll see if you have the original microbit, it's in here in the processor. There is the temperature sensor. And then on the right is the version 2 microbit, which I have right in front of me here. And it's right in there. So it's got buttons, it's got temperature sensors, it's got this logo you can press as an input as well. So it's got an output of a little speaker, and you can see that speaker on here as well. And so there's a lot of different things we can do, both in terms of the inputs from sensors or buttons, and then outputs as well, like the LED display or sounds, that kind of stuff. So let's take advantage of that and have some fun with this. We're going to go to makecode.microbit.org, and you just choose a new project. You can call it temperature or temperature display, temperature sensor, whatever you want. I've already got one here, so I'm just going to open it up. Now, what we're going to do with this program, unlike the flashing heart that was flashing forever as soon as we downloaded the program in that forever loop, we're not going to use the forever or on start loop. We want a specific input for the temperature. And why don't we make it one of these buttons, the A or the B button, okay? So what we will do, we're going to go to the input set of blocks. And there's a whole bunch of different ones you can scroll through here. And we're going to choose this one. So just drag this on button A, press, and just drag it out onto your canvas onto the right. Notice there's a little down arrow, meaning there are some choices. So we could make it on B pressed or on A, or we could make it such that both buttons have to be pressed at the same time for something to be triggered. We'll keep it as A for now. You choose if you want to make it different. Now, what do I want to happen? Well, I want something to be displayed on the screen, okay? And I want it to be a number, the temperature of the current environment. Okay, whenever I press A, it's going to take the temperature and it's going to display it on the screen, okay, as a number. So let's figure out how to do that. Well, you'll see in the blue basic boxes, they have a show number. Remember we use this one, show LEDs? Well, this one we're going to show a number. You even have like show like words. There's all sorts of stuff. We're going to have it show a number. So we're going to put it in there. What number is that? Well, let's go to our input. And notice how this is kind of where this little on button A press show a number. It's kind of a circular thing. So let's look for an input thing. What you'll see is our, oh, look at that. There's even a compass heading in here, but we're going to choose temperature. And it's kind of rounded like this. And I'm just going to drag it up and watch when I see that. See how it kind of connects in there? And when I just let go, there it goes. So on button A press, it's going to show a number and it's going to show what the temperature is, okay? And if I were to try it out on my virtual microbit, on my screen here, here's what it would look like. Press it, it's taking the temperature outside and it's, let's say, it's not really taking the real temperature of my microbit. This is just sort of a simulator, simulating that it's 21. So I press it and then it shows a 2-1 flash across the screen like that for 21. Okay, so that's all we really need to do. So let's go to our real microbit here. I'm going to connect it in to power. All right. And then don't forget, I like to do this every single time I'm doing a new program. We go to this settings gear here, and we're going to we're going to connect this device. We're going to connect the browser to my device through that USB. So I'm going to follow the steps here on my screen. And I'm going to just choose next. I've got my USB cable that came with the Microbit plugged into my computer. Now I've got the other end plugged into my Microbit. Next, up it pops. There it is. When you see BBC Microbit, that's the one, and connect. Very easy to do. All right, tells me that I'm connected. Good to go. So I've got this program here. Now I'm going to hit the download button, and it'll transfer over to my Microbit. All right, it says it's downloaded, so let's give it a try. When we push the A button, let's see what happens. Push it, and look at that, 22 degrees. All right, that's pretty balmy temperature. So that's it. Very simple and easy thing to do. Now think about with your students, if you wanted to create something of a display in your classroom or in your school, you're going to have to think about, how am I going to house this Microbit? Do I want to kind of create sort of a container of some sort out of paper, out of cardboard, out of other materials? Do I want to, and if so, how am I going to power it? Am I going to power it with the battery pack? And if so, where am I going to put the batteries? And do I put that in the housing somewhere? Is it taped up somewhere? So you're going to have to think about all that. It's really fun kind of way to start thinking about some design elements too. So I do recommend, beyond just trying this out, if you want to sort of make it a little display area in your classroom or in your school somewhere, that you get kids thinking about what this Microbit's going to be built into. The beautiful thing about this inexpensive device, you can put it with paper or cardboard or Lego or, straws or all sorts of different types of readily available, inexpensive materials. And you can really think about now that designing and that engineering design element of STEM. All right, so that's all you have to do. Now, would you like a little challenge? Would you like to take this a little bit further? I always like to do this and think, how could I make this program a little bit different? How could I make it kind of more interesting or a little bit better? Well, what if when we press this button, depending on what the temperature reading was, what if we had certain things happen? Like if the temperature is lower than something, maybe it makes a sound. And if it's higher than a certain temperature, it makes another sound. Or maybe it displays something else on the LED screen, right? So you've got lots of options. So if you'd like to try to do that, follow along with me and I'll show you how we can do that. So that's going to involve some of these logic blocks, and it's a nice way to introduce these logic blocks. If you click on the logic blocks there, we've got some cool option here, some conditional statements. Now, we can choose if certain thing is true, then something happens. But I think what we want in this situation is, if something is true, then this happens, else this happens. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to make it such that if the temperature is maybe above a certain temperature, we're going to make it make a certain, maybe a happy sound. And if it's colder than that, we're going to make it make a different sound. Okay, now this is assuming you have the Microbit version 2. If you have the Microbit version 1, instead of it making a sound, because you don't have a speaker on the version 1 Microbit, maybe you could have the LEDs light up a certain way if it's a warm or a cold temperature, happy face, sad face. Anyhow, let's drag this out here. All right. So we're going to keep it as on button A pressed will show a number. Then we're also going to add on inside this on button A, we'll put it right below the show number. All right, so it's showing the number. Now, if a certain thing is true, then something's going to happen. And if it's not that, then something else is going to happen. And if you really needed to have even more things, like 2 or 3 or 4 conditions, you can use this little plus and keep adding. So let's learn how to do that. Now, I want you to notice one thing. If a certain thing is true or false, Notice inside this first thing we have something that's shaped kind of like a stretched out hexagon, okay? This kind of sharp corners. It's a little bit different than this circular thing. So we're going to go back to our logic and look for some of those, comparison. So if our number is equal to or less than or greater than something, then something, right? Okay. And that's what we're going to use here. So I don't think it matters which one of these two blocks. I think they're pretty much identical. Now I'm going to pop this right into here. See again how that red matches up with the red, and it lets us know that it's going to fit. Now, what do I want this number to be? Well, I actually want it to be whatever this temperature reading, if the temperature reading is something. So I could find my temperature button again inside the input, but here's another way you can do this. You can right click, and if your kids are on a Chromebook, you can just two-finger press on the trackpad to right click, and let's just duplicate that. This is really a useful coding tip for getting started coding. Instead of having to go back to the main area, get new blocks all the time, we can just duplicate ones that we have, save a little bit of time. So if that temperature is, and look at all the choices we have. We have equal, not equal, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So you want to talk about mathematical thinking and knowing what those symbols mean. It's a nice way to kind of start having students calculate those things in their mind. So what do we say? What was our temperature before? It was like 22, I think, 21, 22. So why don't we say that if the temperature is less than, and let's put a number in here. Let's say if it's less than 21, it's going to be a little chilly, isn't it? So if it's going to be less than 21, then let's make something happen. And then if it's greater, if it's otherwise, if it's not less than 21, it has to be greater than 21, right? Or it has to be 21 or higher. So then we'll make something else happen. So you can pick whether you want that thing that's happening to be show some LEDs, like show an icon of some kind, or make your own symbol for a higher temperature or lower temperature. I'm going to choose music, okay? Because if you have the version 2 microbit, this is a cool way to sort of have another output. Again, we've had some sort of sensing, some inputs for buttons. We have some output. The only output we've used thus far is our screen. But why don't we use the output with some music? So scroll down and to the microbit version 2 and play the sound. There are a few preset sounds, and look, you can actually make your own melody in here if you want to play melody. Even look at that, you can even at certain beats per minute get your music teacher involved. But we're going to go down and just choose one that's pre-made already, a sound. So I'm going to drag this out here. If that temperature is less than 21, then we're going to make it play a sound. I'm probably not going to make it play giggle, because I want something that is going to be not a happy thing. So if we just look down here, you can try these out on your own, but I'm just going to go sad, okay? So if it's less than 21, it's going to play a sound, a sad sound. And if it's going to be anything else other than that, I'm going to have it play a happy sound. So let's just, now look, I could just do what I just told you guys to do, is just right click and duplicate that one. Let's pop it right in there. We'll save ourselves a little bit of time, won't we? So I don't want it to play the same sound. So we can do that giggle or twinkle or happy. How about I do happy? All right, so we've got this program done, and now it's time to download it to our microbit and see what actually happens. All right. I always like, every time I'm doing something new, you can't reconnect this thing too many times. So I just like to just make it a habit, doing that connection piece. Just make sure it's connected. I haven't changed anything, so I wouldn't have to connect. I could just download it. But now I'm just going to hit download. And there we are. It's downloaded. Ready to try this? All right, let's focus right here. So what should happen? Let's see what happens. Press it. It is 23. Oh, that's the happy sound. Did you hear that? Let me just get the mic a little bit closer so you can hear that. I'm going to press it again. Cool. I hope you heard that. So that worked, and you can play around with that. You can get like a bag of ice or a bag of snow. Of course, don't let your microbit get wet, but if you kind of have it in a Ziploc bag or something like that, if you want to you can kind of manually lower the temperature with a little something cool or an ice pack in your school, just kind of wrapped around something waterproof. You can blow on it to warm it up in some way. Be careful with it, but you can kind of play around with that. And so this is a really great way to start taking advantage of some of the other inputs and outputs, including the sensors, which one of them being the temperature sensor. And really students' creativity, now that they've got a couple of programs under their belt, they can really start to get creative with how they think about some inventions they create. And the more little projects like this that you start with them, the more creative they're going to be able to get. All right, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll stick around for the next tutorial because we're going to take it to the next level.